a castle like this, it's probably not going to cost the same. It is beautiful. You've got these very mature trees that allows you to access some of that park space as well. All right, everybody, welcome to our neighborhood tour of Rosedale near downtown Toronto. I'm Tom Moore, your host, and we're going to be going over kind of what it's like to live here in Rosedale, the amenities, the vibe, housing situation, transportation, things to do, all that good stuff. But let's start off just quickly kind of with the amenities. We're on Yonge Avenue here, which is kind of one of the borders. As you can see, I'm gonna have to tuck in here before this fire truck comes off. But all the way down there, that's kind of gonna be your main drag for getting your, everyday shopping done. So we've got a lot of kind of shops, small scale shops, whether it's getting your haircut done. There's an LCBO nearby. There is a gas station. Sorry, I'm gonna wait for this thing to go by. There's fire trucks nearby. And then there's just, again, shops for your everyday needs. And that's gonna be located right on Yonge Avenue, which again, is kind of the main, one of the main borders here that allows you to get to and from downtown Toronto, but also has a lot of your shopping. So what the plan is for today is I'm going to kind of narrate as we walk along and then give you some key points about the neighborhood. Again, this channel is all about kind of touring you around Canadian cities, giving you some information that you may want to know about before you make the move there. We've built up a pretty big network across Canada of agents, as well as just realtors, and kind of all the professionals you would need to make a move, whether you're buying or selling. And we always love it when people reach out to us, just, looking to chat, looking to get some information, whatever it may be, we're here to help. So as we kind of meander our way through here, I'll just give you some footage. I mean, this is old money Canada. This is kind of one of the neighborhoods in Canada that is well known for just having some very historic families that are historic wealthy families. You've got a lot, even though I'm pointing the camera at some condos, but you've got a lot of detached homes here. And the area of Rosedale that we're kind of traveling through is so right now we're on Rowanwood Ave, but Rosedale that we're going through is kind of bordered to the north by the rail line. I know we crossed over a south-north rail line, but there's a north rail line. You've got obviously Yonge Avenue there. You've got Rosedale Valley Road to the south. And then to the east, you've got kind of Bayview Ave and then the Don Valley Parkway to the far east. Now, one of the cool things, there is just this beautiful houses through here, right? A lot of brick in Ontario. But I'll kind of let you know where we're turning, if we're turning, just so you can follow along on the road. But one of the cool things about this neighborhood is the fact that there's a lot of park space kind of all around. You've got these ravines almost on all sides of the neighborhood. So accessing, the outdoors, the woods, whatever you want to call it, is going to be relatively easy here. Look at this cool car. But the big thing here is that Sorry, I'm just kind of stopping mid-sentence in. But the big thing here is that you're able to access those outdoor amenities kind of within or on the outskirts, probably more is a better representation, on the outskirts of the neighborhood itself. And then obviously you've got a lot of kind of other fun things to do that are scattered. I mean, we're in basically downtown Toronto, right? Like we're very close to the ability to get around. So when it comes to transportation in this neighborhood, you're obviously on Yonge Ave, so you've got the TTC, which is the subway line that runs north-south along Yonge Avenue. Your closest subway station is going to be Summerhill, which is slightly to the north. Again, it's probably a 25-minute subway right to Union Station once you're on there. And that allows you, once you get to Union, you can kind of go anywhere, but obviously downtown is along the way. So if you're commuting downtown, then you don't have to go as far, which is great. But you've also got bus lines that run around, and you've got, relatively easy access to some of the larger highway systems, all right? Whether it's getting to the Don Valley Parkway to your east, or maybe you're kind of traveling elsewhere. Okay, so we are still rocking along here. Now we're still on Romewood Ave. We're about to turn right onto Thornwood Road. And again, just these houses here are really quite, they're quite beautiful. Big estates. So a little bit more about the transportation. You've got buses that run on South Drive, Crescent and Glens Roads, as well as Summerhill. And then the big thing is that you do have that access to the Don Valley Parkway, basically minutes away. Now, going back to kind of the recreation / amenities and whatnot, the big thing here is that those little ravines, they do have trailways. So you can kind of walk along those trailways if you want to take the dog out, you can take the kids for a run. There's definitely opportunities to do that. And then Rosedale Park has tennis courts, there's a sports field there. And then even an artificial ice rink, as well as a wading pool. So there's plenty of stuff to do around here. And then because we're in downtown Toronto, or I guess not downtown Toronto, but we're near downtown Toronto, you have the ability to basically just explore the city, use the city's amenities, right? So that's pretty perfect. Okay, so let's briefly talk about kind of the housing situation. Again, this is one of Canada's almost storybook neighborhoods. Very prestigious, a lot of old wealth here. So in general, you are not going to be able to find anything, whether it's a townhouse or a detached home, for under a couple $1,000,000, right? And depending on the thing about a neighborhood like this, well, the thing about anywhere, is that when you start getting into the nitty gritty of, is this house a tear down versus is this house had some significant updates in the last several years? I mean, the land alone is expensive, and then your prices is going to fluctuate based on basically how good a shape the house is, square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, and anything that's kind of been done in that realm. So, a castle like this, it's probably not going to cost the same as a smaller detached home. It is not going to cost the same as a smaller townhome. So these are all things to keep in mind when you're kind of scoping things out. This is a neighborhood, basically, the very least, where you're going to require a large budget to live here. The rental side I'm not as familiar with, just because we tend not to handle rentals. But when it comes to buying here, you're going to be in need of a significant budget. And in a lot of cases, even if you're just trying to toe into the market, so enter a neighborhood on the lower end, there's a chance you're going to be buying something. I know as crazy as this sounds, but there's a chance you're going to be buying something for a couple $1,000,000 that might be some reno stuff to it. If that's the case, then you're going to need to budget for renovations, right? So these are all things to just kind of keep in mind. But again, as you're walking through here, like it is beautiful. You've got these very mature trees. It's very clean, tidy. Feels safe. This is one of the few areas of Toronto that I've been to that, you don't, what's the word? Obviously there's a lot of mental, like all the big cities in the world now, there's a lot of, whether it's mental health induced, addiction induced, but there's a lot of people that are kind of on the streets. Sometimes when you're walking by them, you can be a little spooked. But here, definitely not getting that vibe. This vibe is obviously, whenever you're running into a neighborhood like this, where you've got individuals that are just on the highest level of the economic spectrum in the country, you're going to have a specific type of neighbor, right? More mature, they're easier to, it's a bit more calm. I've seen quite a few people walking their dogs today, but you're probably not going to find as many young families here just because of that price point. I mean, there's exceptions to every area, right? Doesn't really matter where you are. If you can afford to buy the house, then you can live here. And nobody's going to discriminate based on your background or anything like that. So it's really going to depend on what you are looking for and who's living there. Okay, so just to keep everybody apprised of where we are, we're about to turn left onto Crescent Road. And I'm going to kind of keep quiet for a bit here and let the camera do the talking and let you do the watching, and then just enjoy the I'm going the wrong way. Hold on here. Oops. Yeah, that's not the way I want it to go. But I'm just going to let you guys kind of enjoy, and I'll try to snip this together so that it's either a little quicker or there's not too many down points. I may chime in at different times just to give a little bit of commentary, but this is basically to just give you a feel for the neighborhood, a look at the neighborhood, so that you don't have to use the little Google Earth man driving around on that. You can kind of see what the neighborhood looks like. Okay, enjoy.
job.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to briefly touch on that I think I forgot to mention is Rosedale is sometimes not referred to, but spoken with in the same sentence as Rosedale Moore Park. So if you are ever doing research, then you may see that, and that is completely normal. But the other thing I wanted to touch on was the, first of all, there's a little community space here. I believe there's a pool in there, which is nice. And I also wanted to touch on kind of the route we're taking here. So we're kind of starting in the northwest area, and then we're going to be walking diagonally across the neighborhood towards this kind of southeast. So down at the southeast as well, there is kind of another subway station down there that, you know, if you're on one side of the neighborhood, so if you're on the western side of the neighborhood, you can go kind of to Yonge and Bloor, or Yonge Avenue, I should say. And then if you're on the east side of the neighborhood, you can head east to get in the subway there. It all depends on where you are in the neighborhood, quite frankly. But yeah, we're just continuing on here. There are some just stunning brick homes here, as you've seen. And that pool club we just passed by is called the Rosedale Pool Club. And yeah, so if you're, you know, that's kind of nice on a hot summer day. It's the one thing about Toronto is that, you know, it's a little harder to get into nature. So if you don't have a pool in your home, or maybe you just want to go to a more social pool to socialize, then that's an option as well. Let's just go to the local pool club. I know in my hometown, a lot of people opt to go to the kind of local pool because there's tennis courts there, it's your friends there. It's a country club. It's a bit more of a community-based experience rather than just hanging out in your backyard pool, which, don't get me wrong, is great, but I never grew up with a backyard pool, so I had to go to friends' houses. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is so we're still kind of on Crescent Road here, and then we're gonna turn left coming up. That's a South Drive. Loop around, continue on, and yeah, hopefully you're getting quite a bit out of this. And again, on this channel, we're trying to create content on a lot of different cities around Canada, neighborhood specific content, but also I like to call it things you should know content. So, you know, just information about the city, right? In kind of a YouTube format, whether it's pros and cons, maybe there's reasons you don't want to move to a place, or limiting factors, I guess, that if they were there, we'd try to do a video on that in the cities we go to. And then we also you know, do a lot of neighborhood specific stuff, because it is obviously helpful to people who don't necessarily live in the city but are interested in potentially making a move to the city. So here we are at South Draws, and that's one of the, we're kind of like in the neighborhood, I suppose. And that's one of the areas where you can just hop on a quick bus. And then the other thing I wanted to show you here is kind of one of the pathways you might climb down to the ravines. So, there's pathways located throughout, but essentially that allows you to, let's not get hit by a bus. That allows you to access some of that park space as well, which is handy, super handy. And this area that I'm kind of looking at right now is called the Craigley Gardens. So we're not going to go in, but it might be worth a Google if you're thinking about making a move here. Great spot to take the dog, the kids, whatever. Okay, so we just turned off Elm Avenue, and now we are on Nanton Avenue. So overall, I'm sure you folks have noticed there's certain streets in here that have larger lots, and then there's certain streets that have kind of skinnier lots. And when I say larger lots, I mean wider lots. Like if you check in the backyards of some of these guys, they've got quite deep lot space. Hey there, how are you?
Okay, how are you doing?
Good. Beautiful day. So and then in certain other areas, maybe you're running into townhomes, or even some apartment buildings. But one thing that stays pretty consistent is you're gonna have that brick look, very common in Toronto, obviously, but also almost in certain areas, almost like a castle feeling, all right? Which just adds to kind of the vibe, as well as the history of this neighborhood, which has, for many generations, housed much of Canada's most influential people, but also is clearly kind of coming into something new here as even more wealth moves from outside of Canada into Canada. So you're just able to find a significant price point here. With that is going to come a certain type of clientele who's able to afford. Imagine there's quite a few entrepreneurs in here, or individuals that have really reached the very top of either the corporate ladder or the top of their profession. So I guess we're going to turn left on Dale Ave, and then we're kind of coming out the southern side of the neighborhood. We're going to just kind of tow our way onto Castle Frank subway station. One thing I've noticed on here too is that there's really not too much traffic running through this area, and that's obviously very nice because you don't have that noise. Like, it's not crazy noisy. The I guess, traffic thoroughfare areas are on the outskirts of the neighborhood. Yeah, you're going to get people driving in and out of here like any other neighborhood anywhere, but it's not like crazy loud like you'd expect of an area that's pretty darn close to downtown. So, you know, if you're looking for quiet, this is probably a place as well where you can find, you know, your own little quiet space. And there's also quite a few little hidden little cul-de-sacs here, which will also obviously reduce traffic flow. And one thing too, for people who aren't from Toronto, is a lot, and the vast majority of side streets in Toronto, they have a speed limit of 30 kilometers an hour. So, you know, that's kind of nice. And for my American listeners or watchers, I have no idea what that translates into at the current point in time, but it's slow. It's not 30 miles an hour. Yeah, okay, we're kind of coming up here on the Castle Frank Road. So I may end up leaving you here. Again, once we're kind of off to this side, we're gonna hit kind of what's the Don River Valley Park, you should say. And from there, we're basically out of the neighborhood at Castle Frank subway station. And as you can see, there's quite a bit more traffic up here as we near the edge of the neighborhood onto Bloor Street East. So that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little neighborhood tour. Going to be trying to put a significant number of these out over the next coming many years, just in neighborhoods around Canada. I should say larger cities around Canada. Try to do them, you know, not in the winter, because winter in Canada everywhere is a little bit chilly. Walking around in the winter sometimes is not the best move. So right now we're September here in Toronto, and we're going to crank out a whole bunch of these in neighborhoods all kind of around Toronto. So be sure to click on that Toronto playlist and see what other kind of neighborhood tours we got going. We're going to be going after, like, Rosedale's obviously a neighborhood for kind of the affluent, if you will, but we're going to be going after you know, trendy neighborhoods, lower price neighborhoods, neighborhoods that are close to downtown, outside of downtown. But the big thing here is, you know, if you are thinking about making a move to one of these cities, then reach out. We can answer any questions you have, and we've built up a network of professionals to help with your move. So other than that, have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, bye-bye.